Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, it dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn. His heave is gone. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Counted. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. John Morant. Insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Grizzlies win edition. My name is Keith Parrish. That's right, we're back to the Grizzlies win editions as the preseason has kicked off and the Grizzlies took care of the Indiana Pacers 127-122 in overtime. From this first preseason game, we got a lot of important information. There are some big picture, major storylines we need to talk about. There's also some kind of smaller picture, more fun things to talk about that maybe don't matter that much, except to us Grizzlies diehards. Before we dive into it, just wanted to let you know today's episode is brought to you by SeatGeek. That's right. If you're buying tickets on the secondary market, use SeatGeek and use promo code FASTBreakBreak. Same as my Twitter handle, same as my Instagram handle, FastBreakBreak, and SeatGeek will give you $20 off your purchase. If you're going to a Grizzlies preseason game, if you're going to maybe a minor league soccer game, if you're going to an NFL game, anything, if it sells tickets, they're available for a discount on SeatGeek. And again, if you use that promo code FastBreakBreak, you will get $20 off your first purchase. All right, the biggest things from preseason game one, you had Steven Adams, I think, looking healthy. You had the starting lineup announcement, which I think has massive impact to how we've been evaluating and basically guessing how the rotation is going to look. You had Derrick Rose, who, by the way, got the start, looking very, very strong. And then I think as far as the battle on the wing, no one's coming to save us. There's no miracle cure on the roster, as in Zaire, LaRavia, Roddy, Conchar. They are, I think, still who they are. Not to say they couldn't by the end of the year become something special, become a very strong player, but none of those guys, first of all, were asked to start, and when they played, it just looked like the same guys. I mean, sure, some things were a little bit better. They all had nice flashes, but it wasn't like, oh yeah, this guy immediately has seized the job. And maybe that's too much of a conclusion to draw from one preseason game, but it's basically what I was looking for. Like, oh, is LaRavia, has he done something special? I mean, I didn't expect a lot from LaRavia because we saw him play in Summer League, but a lot of it was like Zaire. Everyone talking about Zaire. Is something going to be way different? No, it wasn't way different. He looked fine, but the team turned to Luke Kennard to start. So the starting lineup, we can go there. It was, in this game, without Ja Morant and also without Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart missed the open practice on Saturday with abdominal soreness. I'm guessing, I didn't see it listed officially, that it was abdominal soreness, which kept him out of this game. So with no Marcus Smart, no Ja Morant, did they turn to one of the wings, one of the guys with a size that we think is competing for the small forward position to start? No, they did not. They started Derrick Rose, Desmond Bane, Luke Kennard, Jaren Jackson Jr, and Steven Adams. And Taylor Jenkins had told us he's going to try a lot of starting lineup combinations, a lot of different weird lineup combinations, all preseason long. He didn't say weird. I put the weird in there. But he says he's going to try a lot of different stuff. But for me, this says straightforwardly, Luke Kennard is our opening night starter at the 3. I mean, we can argue who's the 3 among, maybe it's Marcus Smart at the 3. But the 5th starter, assuming Bane, Smart, Jackson, and Adams are all healthy, I'm pretty sure Luke Kennard is going to be that opening night starter. None of the wings have forced themselves to be in consideration for that. Even beyond that, if you look at the second half of this game, so Derrick Rose, who we will talk about in a second because Derrick Rose looked amazing. Derrick Rose didn't play in the second half. So you're like, all right, no Derrick Rose, no Ja Morant, no Marcus Smart. Who is Like, you have to play one of the guys I'm calling the wings, the collection of players: Williams, Roddy, LaRavia, Vince Williams Jr., John Conchar. Vince Williams Jr. did not play. He did not suit up in this game. That's why he didn't play. But which one of those guys on the wing is going to get asked to step up and play? And guess what? Tried to warn you. It was John Conchar. John Conchar, the first of like the small forward shooting guard types that's not Luke Kennard, that was asked to play. He started the second half. So for me, that's all a lot of very important information. I thought most likely to start would be Zaire or Roddy, because I thought it made more sense to leave a guard on the bench if it was Derrick Rose or Luke Kennard. But with both Luke Kennard and Derrick Rose starting, again, I was very surprised, because that leaves no guards among your guaranteed contract players on the bench. I guess Conchar's a guard. So like Conchar is your only guard on the bench. In the first half, Conchar sort of was the backup point guard. He subbed in and out for Derrick Rose. I mean, everyone kind of shared the ball handling duties, which is what we thought was going to happen. But they played a couple minutes without Bane or Derrick Rose on the court, and also without Luke Kennard on the court. So like they had a couple of minutes where it was like Zaire and Conchar were maybe the best dribblers on the court. So that's all surprising to me. But I'm taking it as a big conclusion. Like, that's our answer. For me, and I could be wrong, but for me, preseason game 1 meant, Luke Kennard is the 5th starter. If you play fantasy basketball, I feel like that's worth knowing. If you're in a deeper league or you have one of your later round picks, I'm taking Luke Kennard because he's going to score. He's going to knock down threes. He's going to get assists. He had 3 assists in this one, including a really nice alley-oop to Jaren Jackson Jr. off of a little 2-man action. Like, Luke Kennard, I think, is going to play a lot for the Grizzlies, especially in the first 25 games. And if it matters to you for if you're doing NBA best ball or if you're doing a fantasy basketball league, Luke Kennard's going to get some minutes. He's going to put up some stats. So the big takeaway, Luke Kennard, I think, is the guy. He's going to be high up in the rotation. Next up, I think I led with it, and I haven't talked about it since, but Steven Adams looked healthy. Like, that's a bigger story to me, I think, than Derrick Rose looking superb. Steven Adams had to be healthy, or has to be healthy, for this Grizzlies team to hit its goals for this season, and he looked totally like regular Steven Adams. I don't know what else to say. Like, he looked like he had no limitations, crushing people on screens, grabbing rebounds, had a nice dunk on a beautiful setup, beautiful pocket pass from Derrick Rose. Steven Adams looked totally healthy. That's important big picture stuff, along with finding out kind of that 5th starter for me. That's big picture stuff. And then, of course, Derrick Rose had 13 points in the first half and was scintillating. Now, on the last episode that I did with Drew Hill, I literally said, I think Derrick Rose is going to be outstanding in the preseason. And he was. I mean, Derrick Rose has undeniable ability. He has moves that the other players don't have. Like, the young guys, they have, I'd say, athleticism, and they have some raw talent they're working with. Derrick Rose, 35 years old, the guy has every NBA move you need as an attacking point guard. So, like, if you line him up against TJ McConnell or whoever's playing for the Pacers with Halliburton not in there, yeah, he's going to blow by him. He's going to finish at the rim. It was great to see him hit a 3-pointer, but Derrick Rose looked absolutely astoundingly good. And my prediction last episode that he would was based on the fact that he's going to be totally fresh, and he's playing in preseason, and it's going to be easy for him. The huge question mark is going to be, how long can he hold up? Can he keep this going? Will his body allow him to keep playing at this level? And if it does, well, that's a huge win. It's a huge win in free agency. I was not a fan of the signing. I thought there were a lot of other guys who could probably fill in and help you more. But if Derrick Rose is able to play anywhere close to this, I mean, frankly, if he can play like 85% of this while Ja Morant is out, that's going to be a big help. If he can keep it up throughout the season while Ja is there, well, that attacking, scoring point guard off your bench is going to be a big help for this Grizzlies team, which frankly, struggles in the half court. And not to, again, draw too many conclusions from one preseason game, half court offense still looks pretty rough. Like, a lot of the bad things from last year, they reoccurred in this game. They were terrible at defensive rebounding in this game, especially when Steven Adams was off the court. They gave up a ton of second chance points to the Pacers. They got destroyed in transition. by the Pacers. Gave up a ton of fast break points. They did not make three-pointers. They shot terribly from the three-point line. Kennard was 1 out of 4 on his. Everybody else just really struggled to shoot. Now, all that stuff, I hope it'll take care of itself. Of course, no Marcus Smart, and we know, of course, no Ja Morant. And that doesn't really matter in this preseason game. The big picture stuff, Steven looking healthy, Derrick Rose playing well, finding out, I think, that the fifth starter is going to be Luke Kennard. Again, that's just my guess. That's my takeaway from preseason game 1. And then, of course, I guess I maybe could have mentioned it before now, Jaren Jackson Jr., still an all-star. Desmond Bane played at an all-star level. Jaren had no trouble finishing going downhill. They got him some post touches. It looked a lot like FIBA basketball. If you watch those FIBA World Cup games, they would give Jaren post-ups every now and then, and he was very effective, scoring, turning to his left hand, and getting a little hook off. He did that very comfortably. He easily scored over Obi Toppin. Maybe that's not the hardest task, but Jaren looked really, really good. He beat Miles Turner off the dribble, had that unbelievable dribble move where he got right to the rim and did a right-handed layup over Miles Turner. So Jaren looked great with 18 points. And, oh, by the way, 5 blocks and 2 steals. I mean, 5 blocks and 2 steals is a remarkable stat line. A little reminder, last year, Jaren had 8 games in the regular season with at least 5 blocks and 2 steals. The rest of the NBA only had 7. So there were just 15 games in the NBA last year where a player had 5 blocks and 2 steals, and Jaren had 8 of them, and he did it again this game in 24 minutes. Also 5 rebounds, also 2 assists. That's an outstanding performance from Jaren Jackson Jr. He did it in only 24 minutes. Yes, there was foul trouble. That was still there. That's still a problem. That's not fixed or anything, but Jaren with a monster first game. His 5th block, by the way, was a challenged foul call where Taylor Jenkins, I don't know if in a regular season game they would have challenged it because it was Jaren's 5th foul, which is maybe a good reason to go ahead and challenge it. It looked, to the naked eye, it looked like that's going to be hard to be overturned, but they did challenge it, and it turned out it was all ball. So Jaren only ended up with 4 fouls. He gets the 5th block there. By the way, Taylor Jenkins, because he won that challenge, this season, if you win your first challenge, you get a second challenge. And, of course, Taylor Jenkins used that second challenge at the end of regulation and won that one. And I'm pretty sure that means Taylor Jenkins is the first coach in NBA history to win 2 challenges in one game. Now, I didn't watch all the preseason games that occurred on Sunday before the Grizzlies, so I'm sticking with that story, even though I don't technically know if it's true. Perhaps someone did it in an earlier game on Sunday. But Taylor Jenkins, who has not been great at challenges, if you remember his first year, or the first year they had the challenge, he basically never challenged anything. It was kind of a frustration among fans. He rectified it a little bit in subsequent seasons, but he said he wants to be maybe more aggressive again at challenges this year. Well, so far, he's 2 for 2 on challenges. Good job, coach. Desmond Bane, he had 17 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists. Looked as sharp as ever, as good as ever. He's going to have a monster season, I'm pretty sure. Again, going back to fantasy basketball, everyone's going to be trying to get Desmond Bane this year. As far as the bench, now, a lot of good stuff from these players. And again, it was a really fun game. Yes, the defense was not good. Yes, you got destroyed on the offensive glass. But hey, preseason, you're having a lot of fun. You're playing a team that's specifically very, very good at transition opportunities in the Pacers, so maybe you don't worry that much. But you saw a lot of good stuff. Like, we wanted to see, I think, first of all, how the rotation was going to break down. The first guy off the bench was John Conchar, and that was probably because they want to keep Derrick Rose playing in short bursts. Derrick Rose played like the first 5 minutes or so. Then he came in and played another 5-minute stretch at the end of the first quarter, the start of the second quarter, and then he came out, and then he finished the first half playing a few more minutes there. So Conchar was the guy who came in for Derrick Rose each time. And then you had Zaire and Santi Aldama. Now, Santi, I think maybe because of playing FIBA, he looked very sharp. He had 10 points. He led the Grizzlies with 8 rebounds. Zaire, lots of good stuff. Okay, we haven't seen Zaire play that much. He didn't play last year because of all the injury problems. He also, of course, like I said, did not play in summer league, but Zaire, I thought, was active in a good way. I think the biggest highlight was the assists he had. Some of it was two-man games where his actual assist was something he helped create. So that was good to see. He also, missed all his three-pointers. He turned the ball over trying to go one-on-one a couple of times. So it wasn't like, all right, Zaire is all better and he's making this big leap. It was more of, okay, this is a fine stepping stone from what he saw his rookie year. He was active on the glass. I like to see that. Of course, with his size and athleticism, you desperately need him to grab rebounds. As far as the other wings, LaRavia, he had, I would say, a rough kind of first stretch, and a lot of the stuff he did offensively looked pretty awkward, but he was very, very active. He did hit a couple of the Grizzlies' three-pointers. He had his pocket picked on offense, but he responded well this time that he got his pocket picked. He went back and blocked the shot on the resulting fast break. He finished with 2 steals to go with that block, also had 3 deflections. Roddy looked, I think, the most poised of all those wing players. He just did, big body Roddy stuff, although most of his minutes were against kind of the deeper backups for the Pacers. Now, looking a little deeper at the rotations, so the starting lineup, I think it's worth maybe re-emphasizing. The Derrick Rose, Luke Kennard, Desmond Bane, that's a little bit of small ball, but that's, I think, something we anticipate happening a lot this year. When Ja Morant's back, we assume there's going to be a lot of Ja and Luke and Desmond together. Reminder, that 3-man combination had a net rating over 40 points better than its opponent per 100 possessions in the playoffs and in the regular season last year, and that was in pretty small sample size, of course. So we're going to get a lot more of that this season. Also with Marcus Smart, we assume while Ja Morant's out, the best 5-man rotation, or the best 5-man lineup we can do is Desmond Bane, Luke Kennard, and Marcus Smart. So we're going to be playing, I think, a lot of small ball. Now, once Derrick Rose subbed out, and even when Luke Kennard subbed out, I really liked this 5-man lineup that used some of the bench players. This also included Santi Aldama coming in. You got to that Santi and Jaren big man pairing. That 2-man pairing was very, very successful last season. Taylor Jenkins specified after the game that is a 2-man combination they want to see more of. So once you subbed out some of your guards, you then had a larger lineup. You had Conchar and Bane as the de facto backcourt. One of those guys is your point guard. Who really cares? But you had Bane and Conchar and Zaire then at the 3, and Santi and Jaren front court. That is actually a Grizzlies lineup that has great size 1 through 5. There's not going to be that many Grizzlies lineups this year where I think you have good size at every position, but I think you're going to be able to guard most opponents' backcourts pretty well when Bane and Conchar are in there. As long as Zaire is playable, which we hope he is this season, I think that's going to be a very strong 5-man lineup. After that, once Desmond Bane came out, then things got a little weird. You had some lineups where Jaren and Desmond weren't on the court. Also, with Ja Morant being suspended, that means you had a 5-man lineup without 3 of your best players, or without your 3 best players, which is something I think the Grizzlies should avoid. But in this game, they did it. They had Derrick Rose, Roddy, Zaire, Santi, and Xavier Tillman. I'm not going to say I'm a big fan of that one. That's how they ended the first quarter. They started the second quarter with a small ball lineup. No real power forward. You had Derrick Rose, Luke Kennard, Zaire, and Roddy in there alongside Xavier Tillman. It's just preseason, but I'll be honest, that lineup also made me grit my teeth a little bit. That one specifically, I think one of the issues is going to be, first of all, just perimeter defense, and then secondarily, rebounding. No one can get a rebound. Like Luke Kennard is your second best rebounder behind Xavier Tillman, and I don't consider Xavier Tillman to be that good of a rebounder. There's no rim protection in that 5-man lineup. Again, this is Derrick Rose, Luke Kennard, Zaire Williams, David Roddy, and Xavier Tillman. No rim protection, very, very little rebounding, and then kind of questionable defense. So that one was kind of sketchy to me, but maybe now I'm really getting in the weeds discussing second quarter 5-man lineups in the first preseason game. Let's take a quick break, and then I will be right back to discuss the play of some of the other players who got in the second half and gave us, by the way, a very exciting conclusion to the basketball game. I want to tell you guys about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is a whole new way to play fantasy sports for cash. Also, depending on the state you live, you can play higher or lower against their stat projections and really bring home some big paydays with their specials and multipliers. So if all that sounds appealing to you, sign up now using promo code FBBF, and they will match your first deposit up to $100. That is promo code FBBF, as in Fast Break Breakfast, for a match of $100 on your first deposit. Sign up for Underdog Fantasy and use that code FBBF to get a free $100 on me. Okay, wrapping up my impressions of the players in preseason game 1 against the Pacers. The only guys who played in the first half who haven't really mentioned much are John Conchar and Xavier Tillman. I thought Tillman had a very good game when he was in. He also took a three-pointer, and it wasn't like a totally wide open three-pointer or a desperation into the shot clock three-pointer. It's like, no, he took a dribble and tried a not totally wide open three-pointer, and I think that's a positive. I want Xavier Tillman to shoot three-pointers this season. John Conchar made a three-pointer. Besides that, I didn't really notice anything that popped for me as far as his impact on this game. Of course, I only watched this game one time. I didn't go back and rewatch this one. I might do that for fun. But Conchar, notably, I think just first guy off the bench, got the start in the second half. As far as his impact on the court, nothing really jumped off the screen for me. Now, in the second half, we got a look at Jacob Gilyard and Gigi Jackson playing his first NBA game. Kenneth Lofton Jr. came in, and Shaq Harrison made his debut for the Grizzlies. Gilyard, worth talking about. All right, we all know Jacob Gilyard's story. He's the all-time NCAA leader in steals. Now, a lot of that is because he got to play 5 full seasons because of COVID. But the guy gets steals. We saw him get steals in Summer League. And he came in, he got 3 steals in this game, and he was credited with 8 deflections. That is astounding. So kudos to Jacob Gilyard with 8 deflections, 3 steals, also 6 assists, 5 rebounds. He made 1 three-pointer. So Gilyard having his impact as this extremely undersized point guard, but a guy who really gets after it defensively. Gigi Jackson, for me, everything was there except for the shots actually going in. He took a lot of shots. He was 1 out of 8 from the field. He missed all his three-pointers. But like I thought, his size, it's just so obvious that he's like a big guy and can move, and the Grizzlies need that. They need size. So, he's going to have a chance to play on the hustle and get a lot better this season. As far as a first game, you wouldn't say it was good, missing all those shots. And by the way, shooting the ball a lot. That's going to be his challenge. He talked about it at Media Day, that he has to find his role, and it's a big learning curve. Him getting accustomed to, I need to swing the ball, not shoot it every single time. I get it. Now, Kenneth Lofton Jr., what can you say? The guy looked like Zebo against the Spurs in the 2010 playoffs. He was incredible. I almost called him Zebo. Jen Zebo made 5 out of 6 of his field goal attempts. He had 11 points. He checked in with 5 or 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter and then played all of overtime. He made a 3 in overtime. His only missed shot, he tipped it in to give the Grizzlies a 2-point lead with 14 seconds left. The guy, instant offense. And I know, as Grizzlies fans, we feel secure with our bigs. Like Steven Adams, Jaren Jackson Jr., Santi Aldama, Xavier Tillman, you feel like those are very solid options. And I don't know who I would play Lofton over, but I need to see Lofton play against other teams top line. I need to see Kenneth Lofton Jr. get to play with Jaren Jackson Jr. I have to see that. The guy scores every time he plays. Every time this guy plays, he scores. And if you're not missing any shots, I feel like he needs an opportunity. And so I think there's going to be some games where it's I want to see Santi have a big year 3. I want to see his breakout continue. But maybe Santi's going to play a lot less one game, or maybe Tillman just doesn't play one game. Aldama and Jaren have been a great pairing, but like I want to see some Aldama with Steven Adams so Kenneth Lofton Jr. can come in a first half and play alongside Jaren Jackson Jr. I just got to see it with my eyes. If it goes terribly, okay, he's not ready. He can't guard anybody, something like that. Like I need to see it fail though, because all of the hardcore Kenneth Lofton Jr. fans are probably screaming, it's never not worked. Every time this guy plays, he does stuff. And so we definitely saw it in this Pacers game. He comes in, gets buckets. I mean, the step back baseline, like 20-footer, it was Zebo. It was like when Zebo was cooking. And this one was tough. Like back then, the Grit and Grind Grizzlies, it was throw it to the hand for Zach Randolph. Lofton hit the baseline jumper, and then the next possession didn't touch the ball. It killed me. But Kenneth Lofton Jr. doing a lot of fun stuff. Shaq Harrison, who turned 30 last week, he got in the game. He did what he does. He got several deflections. I think it was 3 deflections and 2 steals in his limited minutes. That is what he does. So a lot of fun stuff we saw from the end of the bench guys. Next game, the game against the Bucks on Tuesday night. Hopefully Vince Williams Jr. is available to play. We get to see him make his season debut. And by the way, for that Bucks game, I will be doing a playback in my playback room, playback.tv/fastbreakbreakfast. I did a playback for the Pacers game. It was kind of last second, and it was just chat only. I am not at my house. If you're watching on YouTube, perhaps I could have mentioned it earlier. Not in my normal recording location. I'm actually technically on vacation. But I will be doing a playback. It might be audio only. It might be video and audio. We'll see what we can set up here in a way that doesn't disturb the rest of my family, who does not want to hear me yell about the Grizzlies taking on Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks. But please come join me over in the playback room. And that, I think, is it for today's episode. Again, big takeaways. Steven Adams looked good. Derrick Rose looked amazing. The rotation decisions from the coaching staff, they prioritized Luke Kennard over any of the other wing options. So for me, I'm going to stand on the conclusion that means Luke Kennard is probably our 5th starter on opening night. None of those other wings forced Taylor Jenkins to put them in. They, of course, have all of training camp. They have the next few weeks to make their impressions and show that there is a better option. But I'm thinking it's going to be Luke Kennard. Anyways, remember that promo code FASTBREAKBREAK if you are shopping at SeatGeek. If you want to play fantasy basketball with me, go to patreon.com/FastBreakBreakfast. I play fantasy basketball with my Patreon supporters. Also, if you join Patreon, there's a Grits and Grinds Slack channel you can join and ask me Grizzlies questions whenever you want. It also, of course, helps support the creation of this podcast. That's patreon.com/FastBreakBreakfast. All right, hope you guys have a great Monday. I'll talk to you soon. Go Grizz.